When I look back at my fitness journey, I realized that I wasted hundreds of hours worrying about stuff that didn't even matter. I had no idea how long it would take to see results, what to expect, how to do a proper cut or lean bulk, which meant that I was second guessing myself every step of the way and I was changing my program way too often. And it all seemed so complicated back then, and now it feels simple. And there's really no reason for you to make the same mistakes that I did. And to prevent that, in this video, I want to go over 3 key lessons that in hindsight played a crucial role in me getting the best shape of my life and now staying in that shape for over 10 years. And the first big lesson is to focus on what truly matters and ignore everything else. It's about identifying the highest leverage points, because as long as you get the most important things right, you can safely ignore 99% of fitness information out there and still get an incredible lean, healthy, fit physique. And this saves an enormous amount of time and mental energy. And from my experience, things that are often mentioned that are overrated and aren't really all that important are HIIT style fat burning workouts, chasing the sweat in the gym, tracking how many calories you burn using a wearable, eating breakfast or not, or meal timing in general, carbohydrate to fat ratio, how long you're doing your fasting, specific foods that are supposed to have some form of unique fat burning property, and basically 99% of supplement talk out there. And things that are underrated yet work every single time are creating a sustainable calorie deficit to lose a pound and a half a week, walking more, having the same simple meals over and over again, tracking calories and macros, eating a high protein diet, and following a properly structured lifting program to get stronger over time. I would call these the core fundamentals. But the problem is, when it comes to fitness advice, most people tend to ignore what's simple and perceived as obvious. And I made the same mistake, because after you hear the same information many times, you sort of become numb to it. Our brains will perceive it as less valuable to pay attention to. And sadly, the things that are responsible for 95% of our results fall into that category. The truth is, if you don't do these things consistently, if you don't do them right, you won't see results no matter what else you do. So don't make the same mistake I did. I was always looking for new stuff to add to the routine. Instead, I should have been focused on a select few habits that work and then mastering those. Things like accurately tracking my calories and macros and weighing things, which I avoided for a very long time. Learning how to progressively overload in the gym while maintaining good form. Hitting the like button on my videos. The fear of missing out on some new secret fitness shortcut is fake. There is no secret. It's a waste of time and mental space which you could have invested in organizing yourself better to be more consistent with the fundamentals. Getting lean and building muscle is not about adding more stuff. It's about focus. If you do the most important things right, all the rest is optional. Now, the second important lesson I learned is that the more you care about your fitness goals, in a way, the harder it gets. And this is something I struggle with a lot. Let me give an example. I'd lose weight for a few weeks in a row and I would get very excited. I'd be even more focused with the diet, I'm doing extra steps, I'm pushing harder in the gym, and everything felt amazing. But then I'd have a night out, we'd eat at a restaurant, there's some friends that want to come over the next day, they want to bring some food, and despite me planning and measuring everything, I'd typically gain about 3 to 4 pounds. And then it would take me about 4 to 5 days to lose that weight and get back to my previous low. And I felt like I'm consistently losing progress and would really bother me because it made no sense. I was good 95% of the week. There's no way I could have messed up everything in just 2 to 3 meals. And the thing is, I didn't actually mess up the calorie deficit for the entire week. It just took longer to see what's really going on. Because over the next few weeks, when I average everything out, I would in fact lose more body fat. But despite that, I felt like I was doing something wrong. Because I set myself up with this expectation that the weight would keep going down consistently if I did everything right. So when it stopped going down for a day or two, it would really mess with my head. And this emotional roller coaster is simply not sustainable. Because getting lean is not a linear process. It's usually all over the place. For example, I tend to retain a lot of water weight, and it can sometimes take up to 2 weeks for me to get that whoosh effect where I can get rid of the water weight and then I can see my true weight on the scale. And you don't know how your body works until you get to 10 to 15% body fat once. So the first journey to that point is going to be full of different lessons. You're going to learn a lot. And the problem with being too focused on short-term metrics is that you easily get frustrated and it clouds your judgment. You start making irrational decisions, you overcompensate, you cut calories, you're not supposed to cut calories, you overdo training or add extra cardio, and then you start dreading the whole thing because it's hard to keep up, and then you lose your motivation. I've been through that exact cycle, and one of the things I learned to tell myself when I'm going through this is Never get hyped when you lose weight in a week, and never get upset if you don't. Focus all of your attention on the input side of the system, which means being consistent with your nutrition, training, steps, and sleep. Because if you didn't lose weight last week, you have to wake up tomorrow and follow your routine. If you did lose weight last week, you have to wake up tomorrow and follow your routine anyway. It was about consistency yesterday, it's about consistency today, and it's gonna be about consistency tomorrow. Based on 1 day or 1 week of data, you don't really know what's going on. Yes, you need to fine tune over time, but you need to be consistent with your habits for at least 2 to 3 weeks, especially your food intake, so then you can see if the numbers are moving in the right direction. Never let short-term fluctuations control your emotional state or your commitment to the process. Now, the third lesson I had to learn the hard way is that your worst days matter more than your best days. Everyone can stick to the plan when life is simple, but if you can only follow your routine when things are going well with family, work, and life, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you won't make it. Even if you get lucky and you make some progress, eventually when you have a bad week or two, you change jobs or something else comes up, you'll drop off and you're gonna lose that progress. And moments like that determine who's gonna make it and who's going to fail. People who fail tend to completely drop their fitness while they're dealing with other life challenges. The rationale is, I'll get back on it when things return to normal. And this is a mistake, because as soon as you lose momentum, everything will feel 10 times harder. And the longer you stay off track, the mental burden of getting back on track feels greater, even though objectively not much has changed. Still the same set of habits as you followed before, but they're perceived as much more difficult and tedious. Our brains like to play tricks on us, and this is one of those tricks. So eventually when you want to get back on track, it feels like it takes an enormous amount of energy to do so. I've experienced this firsthand, and I've seen hundreds of people drop off after they've lost momentum and they simply couldn't regain it. It felt too hard. And that's why I'm a really big fan of viewing the fitness routine as a dial rather than an on and off switch. On your best days, you might be operating at 10 out of 10 on that dial, but on your worst days, setting the dial at 1 or 2 still keeps you in the game. The key is to never turn it off completely. So when life gets crazy, you set the dial at 2 and you focus on a few non-negotiables that keep your momentum. I suggest getting at least 6,000 steps per day, tracking your protein, and lifting 3 times per week for 30 minutes. That's a solid foundation, and you can scale up once things calm down. Because life will rarely give you enough space to only do fitness. Unless you're a pro bodybuilder, something will always keep coming up. Being able to adjust the dial based on what you can do in your life at this moment is really the key, because sometimes the goal is to win the game, other times the goal is to stay in the game. This approach will put you ahead of 95% of people out there who quit as soon as things get hard. I'll be sharing a lot more advice on consistency and habits in future videos, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in coaching and working with me directly to get amazing results on your fitness journey, details for coaching are in the description below, so check those out, and I'm gonna see you in my next video.